This is the Moonlight Graham Show, a freewheeling conversation with the role players, the underdogs, and guys with flat-out great stories in sports.
Hello and welcome back to the Moonlight Graham Show, where we celebrate the role players, the underdogs, and the great stories in sports. And we've got a special treat for you today as one of my all-time favorite Moonlighters. One of our first Moonlighters is back on the pod. Big Ben Meyer, Mr. Grandview, returns to the Moonlight Graham Show. If you've been listening to our pod since the very beginning, Big Ben was one of our very first episodes 5 years ago that we had on here, and he always is so much fun. He's made a couple of guest appearances since that very first episode. The fans love him. The crowd loves him. The Moonlighters love him, and so we had to bring him back on the podcast, especially during Iowa and Iowa State week. Myself, grew up an Iowa State fan. Big Ben, he's a Hawkeye fan. Wanted to get his thoughts on the game this weekend. Wanted to get his thoughts around Brian Ferentz. And, you know, the 25 points per game thing, it's kind of taking over Twitter right now. And as a kind of a lifelong cynic, Ben always has some fun thoughts there. I will say this episode is brought to you by Roberts Heating and Cooling as well. Big Ben is the biggest and best guy on that staff over at Roberts Heating and Cooling. They are my go-to folks for kind of everything around the house, from heating, cooling. Whenever we have anything go wrong, I just call Big Ben because he's the most trusted man in the game. So check him out, Roberts Heating and Cooling, and enjoy today's episode with Big Ben Meyer.
Moonlighters, are you or someone you know moving down to Kansas City? Well, if you are, the one realtor that we trust and that you need to be calling is the great Brian Sandvig. As you well know, Brian Sandvig is our producer here on the podcast, and there is not a better residential real estate advisor down in the Kansas City marketplace than Brian Sandvig. Call Brian Sandvig, shoot him a text. Hey, DM us on social media. We'll get you connected with Brian if you can't find him on all the socials, but he is there and he is active, and he is your Kansas City realtor, so give him a call.
One of my all-time favorite Moonlighters is back on the podcast. Most of him showed up tonight. Ben Meyer, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Tim. Most of me is happy to be here.
So I said most of me, and it's funny because I actually had this on my list as well, but I wasn't going to frame it this way. But you just told me before we started recording that you've recently lost a bunch of weight. The way I was going to get into it was last time you were over here, I was not here, but my wife was here. So the plumber comes over, and my wife tells me when I get home, said, Ben looked really good today. And I'm like, wait, was there more to that? What do you mean, Ben? I mean, this is like something husbands have nightmares about, right? The plumber comes over middle of the day, and all of a sudden your wife says the plumber looks good?
Let's be honest, Tim. I'm looking good all the time.
So you've lost a bunch of weight.
Yeah.
How bad did it get, Ben?
I'm not going to tell you the number because I'm embarrassed.
I don't really care to know the number, but like from a feeling standpoint, from a like where you were at.
Yeah, sure. So I got sick in June. Just had a cough that I couldn't kick. I went to the doctor, stepped on the scale because they have to weigh you, to embarrass you. And that's what happened. I got terrifically embarrassed. I said in my own head, man, I never thought that number in my name would be on the same line. And I kind of got after it.
It was at that moment. Like
absolutely.
You left the doctor's office and you're like, this is it.
Oh yeah. You can ask my wife. I got home and I told her straight up, I said, I need to start doing something. This is ridiculous. And I quit drinking pop. I quit eating junk for the most part.
So this is in June. So this is only 3 months ago?
Yeah, I've lost 34 pounds in 3 months.
Holy cow. And
I had it to lose.
Right.
Let's be honest. I was extra
without
Big
a
Ben.
program, though. Like you just cut pop, you cut sweets, you cut the snacks.
Yeah, yep.
And you're a big snack guy. I always have been.
God, I love snacks. Me and the chips, snacks, pop. I was drinking like 8 or 10 pops a day, which is, that's embarrassing to say out loud.
That is a lot, dude.
That is an obnoxious amount of sugar to ingest. So,
did you have withdrawals when you cut that amount of sugar out of your day?
I did a little bit, but I've always been this guy that like if I'm mentally going to do something, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And I just kind of grin and bear my way through it. But what happened is I started doing that and working out a little bit, and I realized really quick that I started feeling a lot better quickly. Just had more energy during the day, wasn't as miserable, period, and just kind of like a happy guy. And that was kind of the filled in for not having that other stuff to eat, I guess.
What are you doing for workouts?
I run like a mile and a half in the morning, and then mostly just my own body weight stuff, push-ups, sit-ups. I jump a ton of rope. The internet said that if you jump rope, you won't be as fat. So the internet's never wrong.
Haven't been wrong yet. So you're doing this in the morning, because this is the question.
I'm up at 5:30.
Because you're up. Yeah, I mean, like, I get to work pretty early anyway. So if I get a workout, it's got to be I'm up at 5, or it's anytime after 5:30. I can't get the workout in and get to work on time. So if I don't get it then, and you know this with young kids too, the late at night workout, like when we're recording this podcast at 7:30 p.m.
This would be when I have free time too.
And you're just zapped by the end of the day.
Oh, yeah. I do plumbing, heating, and cooling all day, so I get my ass kicked from 7:30 to 5. I mean, especially like last week when it was hot. I mean, you get done with that, you're just toast. You know, if the wife and kids are like, hey, let's go outside, I go, fine, go without me. I ain't going out there.
Was your wife noticing that you were 34 pounds heavier?
She said it without saying it. She's like, I'm tired of banging a fat guy. So if we could do something different.
She did not say that.
But she never said it.
No, she did not.
She never said it. But I will say this, that she was happy to hear that I wanted to do something. And then she's even happier that I'm at it and sticking with it. And she likes the way I look a lot more.
So what's the goal now? You're down 34 pounds, but you want to keep this going. You don't want to, like, putting a weight goal out there is almost bad, because then at some point there's an end to it. And you kind of want it to be a lifestyle change and not just this stage that you're in.
Sure. So I turned 40 this year. So I'd be really happy if I could lose 40 the year I turned 40. Ultimate goal would be to like lose 50 total from where I started. I think that would be a weight that I'd be really happy to like roll around at. And the fact that I'm doing the majority of it with like still eating regular meals and stuff like that, I think I can maintain it. I used to just despise working out and despise running. I don't hate it as much as I used to, I guess. So yeah, that'll be the deal, is like, what's the whole point of going through all this if in 5 years from now you're back up to being way overweight,
right,
like I was. So, but yeah, I think just the fact that I feel this much better and like realizing why it makes sense to do, I think that'll be the fuel to keep me at it for sure.
I think when I was young, when I say young, I mean like in my 20s. So I'm talking like post-college time. Most of working out for me was for vanity.
Oh, for sure.
You know, it was like, I want to look good.
Yeah.
Now, in my late 30s, why I work out is for my kids. Because all the time, and you and I are in a similar boat here, where we're having kids later. So I'm going to be an old dad. And granted, there's other people our age that are having young kids. It's more common now for a guy 37 to be having a newborn, right? But that means I'm going to be 55 when that kid graduates high school, right? I'm going to be in my 50s for most of my kids' high school years, or years that they're going to be remembering, right? So I want to make sure that I am like in shape, nimble, able to do things for my kids as I get older, because I'm like, I don't know, maybe 10 years older than when my dad was, when he was, had me.
Sure.
Like when I was my kid's age, my dad was 10 years younger than I am today.
Yeah.
And
like my dad was 26 when I was born.
Yeah. That realization, like I do that math in my head all the time.
Yeah.
And it's wild. And granted, like people are in shape longer nowadays. They may not necessarily be living longer. Like everybody in my family is still dying by 90. That's kind of like nobody's like hit 110 yet in the Flattery clan. Everybody kind of
but making it to 90.
But at the same time, like 60 is way different. 70 is way different now than it was 50 years ago or 2 generations ago.
Oh, for sure. I mean, and you think about it too, like, okay, well, if I'm going to be 55 when my kid turns 18, that means by the time they finish school, I'm going to be 60. Well, I mean, sure, I want to be around for them too, but I want to be in good shape to be able to do some cool shit after I'm done working.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and grandkids.
Yeah.
Look at us.
Yeah. And
Look
I
at
want
us talking about
and,
grandkids.
I got a 5 and a 2-year-old, but yeah, I mean, that's half of it too. Like, then that was something that I thought about too, is like, if I'm going to be around and be able to go to the girls' stuff, and half of the other part of it too is like, I don't want them to be like, yeah, this is my dad, the massive fat dude over there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I want them to be like, that's my dad. He's badass and he looks good today, I guess. I mean, is that weird to say? You know? I guess
mean,
like,
it's like the things that fuel us.
yeah.
You can't, you know.
Like, I was always proud of my folks and the way they ran around, the way they looked and stuff like that. And I want to be able to have my girls be the same way.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I'm not necessarily trying to be the cool dad, but I want to be a dad that can keep up with my kids.
Absolutely.
And,
Absolutely.
Yeah, and not just, I don't want to be the dad that just sits in the stands and is grouchy because he's, 15 pounds overweight and life has passed him by.
I had 4 Mountain Dews and 6 popcorns during the game, like, no, that's not, I don't want that to be me for sure.
When was the last time somebody brought up Mr. Grandview to you?
It would be the last time that I was in this studio. Well, not in this studio, but in the previous studio.
No way.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Nobody just in passing. No like college friends have come up to you and brought up Mr. Grandview.
No.
Really?
I mean, maybe that's because I don't hang out with that many of them, I guess.
Well, it's good that we're bringing it back 5 years later. Like, people need to know. The Moonlight Graham Show audience needs to remember Ben Meyer as Mr. Grandview.
2006. I mean,
17 years, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, still rolling. Yeah.
Is there a chance you get back down to Mr. Grandview weight?
No. Well, maybe.
Never say never.
Never say never. Yeah. I mean, I've done it before, I guess. I mean, that would be some work, though. I'll say this, though. Mr. Grandview weight still wasn't that thin anyway. So, cold beer and Cheetos kept this guy going through school.
Like I said, you've liked your snacks for a long time. The metabolism does change, though.
That's the issue.
If you just keep the habits the same,
it's
you're
impossible.
going to put 5 to 10 pounds on a year.
You're in huge trouble.
Huge trouble. Huge trouble. Listen, I mean, we're old.
Terrible.
Listen to these conversations. All right, let's get down to it, Ben. A couple of things I want to talk about. The two most important things, the most interesting things in college football this year are, number one, Deion Sanders and what Colorado, TCU, like, I've been all in on the prime train for a while now. But the second most interesting thing, and I want to get your opinion on this, is the Brian Ferentz contract with they've got to average 25 points per game. And I think it becomes even more fascinating the fact that they scored 24 in week 1 against Utah State.
Awful close.
Because you almost thought they had to put up 49 in that one in order for them, prior to the Big Ten slate, when they're running through a tougher schedule and they got to play Penn State. They got to play, some really tough teams.
For sure.
They got to go on the road.
Yep.
Man, you know that there's going to be a game where they score 10, 13 points. So where are you at with Ferentz, and what, number one, does he get over 25 points a game? And number two, what happens if he doesn't?
I think great questions on both sides. I don't think there's anywhere. I mean, I totally agree with you. They needed, 40 and change on Saturday to get him to a point where they were going to average over 25. Did they score 25 points in a Big Ten game last year?
Probably, but like Cooper DeJean probably had 2 return pick sixes or something.
That's kind of the rub too. It's not 25 offensive points. It's 25 total points.
I know.
Their defense led the nation in points scored last year. But so on two sides, I think he's in trouble. One, I don't think the offense is as good this year, tools-wise, as it was a year ago, because there were tools.
That's kind of a hot take, though, when Spencer Petras is your quarterback.
Petras was, but Petras had tools, but Petras was horrible. So I think McNamara is there now. He's already injured. That's the book on him already, is like, hey, this guy's got issues. And then the defense is not going to put up the points that they did a year ago. The defense and the punt return thing, there's like 3 or 4 guys in the NFL now that those were guys that were difference makers as far as the defense scoring points. I think they're going to average like 21, 22, and they're going to be real close. And I don't think they're going to fire him, because if you were going to fire somebody, last year would have been the easiest, without question. Empty his office. This guy is a dumpster fire.
So they're just going to dock his pay by $300,000 and move along? It's just wild, isn't it?
does he have it in him to take a $300,000 pay cut and still?
There's got to be
remain?
some. If there's something in the contract, there's got to be some downside to it if he doesn't hit. I haven't read the.
That
contract.
was my question. Is like,
I don't know.
That's what people keep saying too. Is like, well, he gets fired if they don't average 25
I think
points.
he makes less money.
Like, I'd be shocked if that's the way it's worded. But there's a different athletic director now, So I guess we'll see what she's made of. It's something that I thought about because I don't think Barta didn't seem like he was made of much, other than saying yes to some stuff and paying everybody off that got violated.
Does the gambling scandal, kind of add it to the list of scandals?
Like give him a break?
Or give her another out to make changes within the football program if things don't go well?
I mean, I guess I would hope so.
You would hope so.
Yeah. I mean, I would.
You want change.
I'm okay with Kirk. I would run through a wall for Kirk, and that's what I've ever heard about him. But I mean, there needs to be a change on offense. I mean, let's be honest. 15 years ago, Nick Saban huddled every time, and they ran a pro-style basic offense like Iowa does too. And then all of a sudden, I mean, a couple other teams caught up to him and running this pro-style this spread chaos. And guess what they're running in Alabama now? Right. They spread it out. They shotgun. They don't huddle. I mean, if you adapt or die. Billy, what's his name, said it best, right?
I don't know who Billy is.
The guy from the movie, the baseball movie. He's in Oakland.
Oh, Billy, the GM?
Yeah, Billy Bean.
Billy Bean. So, did you see Dabo Swinney on this? Dabo Swinney in their post-game press conference, they just lost to Duke. He said in the post-game press conference that people are comparing his offense to a Brian Ferentz offense, and that's not good. And I don't know if this was like ChatGPT or like AI or something, but if it was a real clip that I just saw on Twitter, it's the most shade a college football coach has thrown at another college football coach ever.
I mean, that's a direct shot across
to
the
an
bow.
active coach.
I mean, that's not saying like a Division II coach or whatever. That like this is a Power 5, Big 10 coach.
Yeah, and it's not like a in-conference rival that you're having fun with or something.
So it's national news.
Well,
didn't McAfee say on game day? He goes, "I do not trust Ferentz's kid." So I mean, the book's out. Everybody thinks this guy sucks.
So your prediction is under,
well under, and not fired because it's a joke. Honestly,
are you getting over to Iowa City for any games?
You know what? The wife came through in the clutch today.
Hey,
she won tickets and a field pass to an Iowa game.
What?
Turns out it is handy to have her around.
She calling into the radio station?
No, it was something through work. She said she volunteered for a Habitat for Humanity deal, and they said anybody who signs up to volunteer gets free tickets.
Love the Minx.
So yeah. The Minx. I keep her happy. I got to keep her around at least till November 11th.
Hawks -4 in Ames this weekend.
Load up on the clones.
Man, you're negative right now.
I mean, how can you be positive? The exact same conversation we had about the offense we had 365 days ago, and we had 365 days prior to that one. So it's not improving. I mean, tell me how they go up there and beat them.
Well, I mean,
it's in Ames. It's going to be hostile.
Iowa State, though, Iowa State lost half of the roster to the gambling scandal. Iowa State lost better players than Iowa did. They lost their starting quarterback.
Maybe lost more important players. Yeah. Better player. I'd say that's better players and more important.
A lot of unproven guys for Iowa State. We didn't see much against UNI last weekend. You never really know when you're playing a FCS team. Was the defense as good, or was the UNI offense not good?
I think Iowa's got the same questions about how they did, though, too.
I didn't think Iowa looked great.
I agree. Which I would have preferred them look great,
but
I do
feel
a lot better.
Iowa State. I do like Iowa State as an underdog in this game. I think Iowa State covers 4, but man, Iowa still I think they got the best player on the field with Cooper DeJean too,
for sure.
But at the same time, here's the one thing I think that's not being talked about. It's going to be really hard for Iowa to put Cooper DeJean in a spot to make the big time plays like he did last year, because now
Absolutely.
everybody knows about him. Everybody knows he's the best player on Iowa's roster, so they're probably not going to kick it to him. They're probably going to throw it away from him. And it's going to be hard for him to have like 5 return touchdowns this year, right?
Totally.
And so he's still going to be a difference maker, all the things, but because of the position he plays, I think it's going to be a lot harder for him to impact the scoreboard in the direct way like he did last year.
I thought a little bit about this a year ago, in the fact that this kid is so athletic and so able. You got to find a way to maybe get him on the field on offense at some point. Because exactly what you said, you got to get your best player on the field as often as you can, and a chance to impact the football game. So on defense, okay, so he shuts down one side of the field. Well, the other side of the field's getting tore up, Well, he's a punt returner. They just won't punt it to him. Punt it 25 yards out of bounds and take your chances. Kick it through the end zone, But I agree with you that he's an unbelievable player and a massive asset. But he's not. If he was a quarterback or a wide receiver or a running back, it'd be totally different.
Why'd you get off Twitter?
Why did I get off Twitter? Yeah, here's what happened. I went ice fishing in North Dakota, and because the guy I was fishing with shut our heater off, it was negative 56 wind chill. I stared a hole through the guy. Why would you even touch the heater? I bent down to restart our heater. My phone goes one out of my pocket of my overalls, 1, 2 down the hole. So if you need a cell phone, go to the bottom of Devil's Lake, North Dakota. There's a nice one down there.
But Twitter accounts are on the internet.
Sure. And so while I was up there for 3 more days, and then it took me 5 more days to get a phone. Don't even get me started on that. And I just was like, you know what? I don't need Twitter. I don't need this. A lot of it that's on there is garbage. I love the Moonlight Graham stuff. We follow each other and stuff like that. And, some of the sports stuff, but 80% of it's trash.
Oh yeah. More than 80.
Oh yeah, probably. My wife would walk by and I'd be scrolling and I'd be watching a slap fight in Russia. She goes, "What are you doing? Watching slap fights?" Like, Twitter's got slap fights, Mom. What do you want me to say?
You had one of the great handles. Laying Pipe 32.
Laying Pipe 32.
It's just a great handle. Like, I would get text messages on a weekly basis. Like, who is Laying Pipe 32?
Because I was tweeting you?
We'd be like going back and forth, or I'd be liking your stuff, and just like random people would be like, who is this Laying Pipe 32 guy? And I just thought it was so great. It's just a great handle. It's a great handle.
And the best part about it is, no one knows this. Nobody knows it's me.
No.
Whatever. I can F-bomb this, F-bomb that, or whatever, and get into it. You should tell Neil that I'm off Twitter, because the other day, Neil tweeted me.
I know he did.
Some hot garbage about Sonny Gray. And
so let's have it out. Let's have it out, because, some might say that you got off Twitter to avoid
Neil,
the Sonny Gray discussion, because you in your Twitter time were very public about how much you hated the Sonny Gray signing, which is going down as maybe a top 5 free agency signing in Minnesota Twins history, and you're running from the criticism.
Not running from anything. Tim, I want you to stop running from your research. Sonny Gray was not a signing. They traded for Sonny Gray.
Okay, a trade then.
Okay. They gave up on Chase Petty, a 19-year-old first-round pick.
I know. Well, how's Chase Petty done this year in the majors?
He's not in the majors.
Okay.
But
Sonny Gray's in this Cy Young conversation.
At 7-6.
He's got a 2.92 ERA right now.
2.98 after last night. He gave up 3 runs.
For the first-place Twins.
I got wrote right here, okay? Sonny Gray as captain, quality start. That's it. He's a quality start.
And what's Chase
He's
Petty?
Not a win.
Captain High A?
He is in High A, working his way towards Double A, and he's got good numbers. All right, here's my stance. There is no statistical information to tell you that Sonny Gray was going to be the guy that comes in and anchors this staff and is just locked down, ready to roll. His best season, he was 14-9, and that was 9 years ago in Oakland.
Ben,
okay,
he is the ace on a going to be the AL Central champs this year.
Tim,
how can you not be
AL
excited?
Central champs? There is not another team in the division over 500.
Hey,
we are the tallest midget.
You played to win the game. Wait, you're a Twins fan here.
I am
You are a
Twins
Twins fan,
fan.
and you're complaining about winning the division and going to the playoffs?
I'm not complaining about the division. I'm not complaining about going to the playoffs. I enjoy all of those things. I just didn't think it was a great long-term move to quit on a kid you drafted in the first round to draft or to pick up a journeyman starter that had been in 5 different teams and never really been an impactful guy.
He's been a top 5 starter in the American League this year. He's been hugely
This year?
impactful.
For us.
Yeah,
but
for us, the team that we cheer for.
I understand that, but going into doing that trade, and this is when we all started getting into it, and luckily for you guys, it panned out because he has pitched pretty well. But going into it, would you go in and say, man, Sonny Gray, I think he's got potential coming out of his ass. We do, yeah. Well, let's give up on this first round pick,
Yeah, because he's a proven commodity.
Sonny
Sonny Gray's a proven top-end starter.
Not
Yes,
a
he
proven
is, man.
commodity. He was a lifetime number 3, number 4
Oh,
before we got him.
man. Oh,
and because
man.
the Twins pitching staff is so rotten, he is a number 1, number 2. But he didn't start on opening day, did he, Tim? This great starter. He didn't start on opening day.
Who did, Joe Ryan?
Pablo Lopez.
Who's also been good.
Yeah.
Another Cy Young candidate.
Well, let's get into it. You know who started on day 2 for the Twins? Joe Ryan. So the vaunted Sonny Gray is the number 3.
Well, I mean,
Goodness. That means he goes up against
Ben,
some fart sniffer.
okay, we're Twins fans
And he's
here.
7 and
okay?
6.
We're Twins fans here, and you're complaining about a deal that's going to win us a division title and get
And
us
that's
back
it,
to the
though.
playoffs.
We had him a year ago.
Chase
and
Petty's
we were
not like Kurt Schilling here. He's
15
not going
games
to
under 500
lead
a
us
year
to the-
ago.
Hey, the Twins are going to the playoffs, and they're going to win their division. They're playing really well. They just
they're
took 2
playing
out of 3
better.
from Cleveland. They took 2 out of 3 from Texas. I mean, they're They're playing really good baseball, and
They're hitting a ton.
well, they're hitting a ton. They've
Which
got
is-
all this young talent right now. A lot of
So
it.
much.
So, like, I know that everybody's kind of been negative on the front office, right? Because the last 3 years have looking pretty rotten.
This guy.
I know you've been.
Right here.
But
Has
now,
been
if you
full
look
roast.
at the current roster and all the young talent is starting to perform, and we still have Kirilloff and Buxton hurt, but we've got.
Don't
we've
get me
got
going
Julian,
on Buxton.
we've got
We don't have 2
Wallner.
hours.
Ben, the Twins are loaded right now, and they needed some veteran presences like Kepler's playing well, Polanco's playing well,
Kepler's-
Sonny Gray. You've got Caleb Thielbar, Moonlighter, right? These
Moonlight.
guys, veteran presence in a pennant race is needed because it can't just be the 24-year-old guys who have never been there before. So the mix of young, old, experience, and not is really good with Twins, and Sonny Gray is a huge factor in that.
I don't disagree with that at all. And I wouldn't say that getting Sonny Gray wouldn't have been a bad move. But can we trade 2 platoon outfielders for Sonny Gray? Why do we have to? I just didn't. My whole stance is
No,
I
you
didn't
can't.
want to.
The answer is no.
I
You
didn't
can't-
want to quit
you
on a
can't trade
19-year-old
2
kid.
platoon outfielders that
Yes, you
nobody
can.
wants. You can't trade Kyle Farmer and Kyle Garlick for a top-end starter. That's not how it works. I know, like, it would be great if it did.
Could
but
you
that's not-
try though? I mean, could you try
They
to
probably
do that?
did, Ben. But you know what? To get talent like Sonny Gray, you have to give up talent like Chase Petty.
That
And
kid
the
was
odds of-
only on the team for a year.
The odds of Chase Petty, who's never been on the team, by the way, the odds of him ever being what Sonny Gray is are so small, so small.
And that's what your brother said. And that
Because
was Neil's
Neil is
comment.
right.
Neil's not right.
Neil's
Okay.
usually right.
Neil's kind of looking right because Sonny Gray's playing really well. Okay. And trust me, I am tracking this. All right. Because Chase Petty right now is 21. All right. He just bought his first beer. So he's got some time left in that old wing. So we'll see how
He's
this
got
goes.
some time for some
long-term.
surgeries too.
Maybe. You know, Sonny Gray's got an opportunity. Maybe he could win us. Maybe he could win 10 baseball games this year. That'd be
Is
a
your
trick.
hatred of Sonny Gray preventing you from cheering for the Twins?
No, I'm cheering for the Twins, and I'm cheering for Sonny Gray.
Are you?
Yes.
I don't believe you. I need you on board.
All right, I'll cheer for Sonny Gray. I promise. And I'm cheering for the Twins. I'm not cheering for failure. I don't want them to lose, and I don't want them to lose when Sonny Gray pitches. All right, I just had it. My stance was is I didn't want to give up on that on a 19-year-old yet for a 31-year-old starter that was marginally proven.
Okay.
All right, so there's Sonny Gray.
But you're on board.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, we're going to win the division. We're going to get blown out in the first round of the playoffs, and down the road we go.
I mean, what have we lost? 17 in a row? 18, I mean, that could be light. It might be 18 or 19 at this point. I don't care. Get us to the playoffs. Get me a playoff baseball game.
Yeah. Yeah, keep me interested. I'm having a great summer with it. So, but you brought up a guy that Kepler, I mean, a year ago, if I would have seen Kepler in the street, I would have offered him a straight hand-to-hand fight. He was so bad. And he's hitting 250. He's got 21 jacks with 70 driven in. That's what we needed out of him.
The Twins aren't in first place without Max Kepler.
I agree.
And
I saw his numbers the other day, and I was like, whew.
And then Polanco came back from injury, and Polanco's been really good lately. Well, and then, we haven't even mentioned it yet. Like Royce Lewis
is absolutely roasting.
He's filling the Byron Buxton size hole in our hearts, which previously Buxton was filling the Joe Mauer size hole in my heart, which nobody could ever do. But like Royce Lewis looks like he's for real.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, he's got power. He's got speed. He can play multiple positions. He's got a little clutchness to him.
He's got some moxie.
Yeah. He's got some guys on base, and he hits it to the moon. I like that kid a lot. Yep.
He walks
Bummer
around.
that he got hurt a year ago, right?
He walks around like a first overall pick.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Which is
like
crucial.
He's got some,
you got to have that.
I don't know, star power to him, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. Know you're the dude. Yep.
Speaking of guys that aren't the dude, Heath Stein.
I got a list here of why Heath sucks.
So, one of the annual Stein versus Meyer. Tell us about the annual Stein versus Meyer golf outing. When it got started, how long it's been going.
So the Meyer v. Stein, Heath and I actually did a deep dive when we talked to you about doing this. I said if I'm going to go on there, I got to have a few facts. The original Meyer v. Stein challenge was 2010. It was played at Grandview Golf Course over on the east side.
Great track.
And I was the victor. And can I tell a quick story?
That's what we're here for, Ben.
So we played the front nine, and Heath rolled in a putt for like a 51 on the front. And I missed mine for a 52. All right. So he's up 2 strokes through 9. And I didn't even really know that we were in a challenge. I just thought it was a couple of dudes had the day off. Let's go swing the sticks. And he comes off the 9th green and goes, dude, I'm kicking your ass. You know how Heath is. All of a sudden, everything's
you guys are just setting the course on fire with a 51, 53. And he starts running his mouth.
There's a foursome behind us that's up our ass because the 2 of us are playing so slow. So we play the 10th, which is a par 4 down the hill, whatever, goes fine. We tie. We go to the 11th. The 11th hole at Grandview is a par 3 over the water, but you're kind of caught up on the backside because there's a fence, and if you hit it over, you're on Guthrie Avenue. All right? Little known fact. Well, Heath has the box. He goes, well, this will be easy. And Heath sucks at golf. So he goes, 1 in the water, 2 out, 3 in the water, 4 out. I say, hey, take a break. All right? Think about it. Mind you, there's a drop zone. And I tell him, I said, just go to the drop zone.
You have the option to hit up here. Heath.
Yeah. Across the water. He goes, that's for pussies. Perfect. I was like, keep hitting from here, idiot. I smoked mine across. The green's the size of a 2-acre pond. Boom. Land it right in the middle of the green. I'm like, 2 putt for a 3. Nothing to it. Heath proceeds to go 5 off, nuts it off the cart path, goes straight up over the fence onto the street, hits the neighbor's house. So he's 5 out, 6 in. At this point, he can't take it anymore. He's like, all right, I'll hit from the drop zone. Goes to the drop zone, chips across the green, cards a 9 on the par 3. I roll my 2 putt for a standard par. So my 2-stroke deficit turns into a 4-stroke lead. I proceed to cruise to a 7-stroke victory as he can't recover. And that was the
And that was the
beginning.
start.
That was the start of the Meyer v. Stein. Like
13 years ago.
I mean, literally going because like I didn't know we were in it, but then he mouthed off to me, and then
then it became a thing.
it just turned on the gas.
So
and
this
like,
will be your 13th. Have you missed a year?
well,
What's the series at?
so that was the other part that we talked about the other day. We tried to figure out where we were at, and he could remember winning 4 times, and I could remember winning 4 times. So we missed some years in there. I think I've won 5. I'm almost certain I've won 5 times, but I can't recall it. So if I can't recall it, it didn't happen. We're tied 4-4. He went down to Missouri there and had to get his master's in physical education,
Which led to an insurance job.
he's putting that education to
Well, so
work.
this is one of my things is like,
And then
it's a little tough. You've chosen to, have his annual grudge match against the guy who his 2 career paths have been gym teacher and insurance salesman. There aren't 2 careers that play more golf than those 2 jobs.
I know.
The gym teacher just plays golf all summer because he's got the summer off. Even for
for sure, yeah.
baseball.
Yeah,
I mean,
Gabe.
Heath coaches baseball, but they get 10 runs in the state tournament, so he's got plenty of time after that until school starts.
July 10th, he's open.
Oh, and then he switches over to selling insurance now, and it's like, I'm sure he's getting in 70 holes a week.
When he was just teaching school and didn't have kids yet, he was beating the doors off me because I was working and parenting and doing this and doing that. And I'm like, man, I'm in trouble. I can't keep up with him anymore because he was playing a ton of golf.
Right. He got pretty good there.
Oh,
and he was
real
getting new
good.
clubs.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, the tragic part is he found up with a little employment. He was making some money that he could spend on some new clubs, which was aggravating. The first time I ever played him, he walked out there with 26 clubs. I said, is that an 11 wood? Jesus.
So but has his game gotten worse now that he's got 2 boys at home? You've
Absolutely.
got 2 girls. He's got 2 boys.
And definitely having the 2, well, now he's got 2 kids, but he only had 1 kid a year ago. And I beat him a year ago. And that's the whole reason why he wouldn't come on the show with us, because he wanted to be a red ass.
He's salty.
Yep, he's still salty. And I mean, I rub it in at every opportunity.
So we think it's all knotted at 4. You're the defending champ.
Yep, I got the jacket. We got a gray jacket. It says Meyer v. Stein on the back. Wrote it on there in Sharpie.
Where are we playing it? When are we playing it?
We are playing a week from Saturday at, what's the place off of 63rd? Willow Creek. Oh. Yep. I mean, it's the perfect track for us.
Well, yeah, I know. But Willow Creek, it depends on, they got 3 9s out there.
3 9s.
So which 9 are you going to play?
Well, it's going to be the 9 that I play on Sunday this weekend because I got to go out there and
it's only 9 holes.
Yep. It's only a 9-hole challenge. Yep. Because typically what happens, we have other people with us and then we want to play best ball afterwards, or we don't want to get too busy and get into the beers a little bit. So.
But there is a big difference in the 9s out there, because if you play that blue course, like the one to the right, there's some funky holes there.
Yeah.
That might be your pick. Like, go out there and master that one.
Yeah.
Because if you haven't played that one in a while, the club selection can be really curious.
There's some water and some big trees out there, too. It's a mature course. It's been around.
Course, yeah.
But last year, Heath got a little whippy with the driver. And, I mean, he was hitting it 5 fairways over. It was a thing of beauty. Absolutely.
Which, frankly, is something you can do at Willow, though.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's open.
It's very open.
There's not a ton out of bounds. You can get away with it if you can find your ball, But, yeah, we're not going up to TCI and playing this thing, I'll tell you that.
Is there a monetary value to it?
There is. We play $1 a hole, carryovers, birdies pay double. Not too many birdies. And $10 on the round. So, you can win $19.
I know you've traditionally had a caddy. Will
Yep.
you have a caddy this year?
I will have a caddy this year. I think Heath's brother Eric is going to caddy for him. And Dubes, Brett, has a baby due literally next week. So he can't do it. He's been my caddy over the years.
Yep. Steady as they come.
Favorite. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, opens 2 beers when I'm getting a little sideways and knows that I need to get into it. Gives me knuckles whenever I make a good shot. But Josh Shoemaker was my caddy last year, and Heath hated it because Josh is really positive. Oh, Ben, you can find that. You'll be okay. And Heath would much prefer him say, don't say that to him. You know, he actually barked at him a couple of times. So Josh is going to be my caddy. He's going to be on the bag for me. So
how are you feeling?
And Josh is a really good golfer. So I'm actually playing the best golf I've played in a long time.
Have you been playing much?
I've played, last year, I think I played 2 times. Once in a off-the-wall Calcutta tournament, and then I beat Heath's ass. This year I've played like 4 or 5 times. Maybe even 5 or 6.
Will there be live tweeting going on? Like, can we follow this? Because you're not on Twitter.
I'm not on Twitter.
Lay and Pipe 32 used to live tweet the Stein versus
I
Meyer
did
challenge.
live tweet it. Multiple times.
Can we get Schumacher? Can we get Eric? Somebody?
Josh doesn't have Twitter. Hopefully we can get Eric to do it. He
from
tweeted,
the Triton baseball account.
Yeah, I don't think he'll probably do it from the Triton baseball account. Eric actually wrote a brilliant poem about the challenge a few years back. I'll send it to you.
I bet it's a real dandy.
It's the most brilliant thing Eric's ever done. I'll tell you that.
Well, I always cheer for you.
I know you're my guy. You're always in my corner.
Yeah, always.
For so many years there in a row, I let you down, except for last year.
Yeah, but I wasn't there last year.
I know.
I feel like I went 3 years in a row and you lost out on every one.
Yeah, and which really bummed me out. Because I'm like, man, Tim's pulling for me. He wants me to win. And here I am sucking.
Well, not only would I like to see you win, I also like to see Heath lose.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's kind of the best part.
I mean, of all the people I know that don't like to lose, I'd say you and him are like in the same conversation.
Yeah.
Because, I've played with you and different stuff, and I could tell, I'm like, Tim does not like to lose very much. Heath hates to lose. He even hates more losing to me. I think he has like a mental thing where I think the only people he respects as athletes have to come from Harlan.
Oh yeah,
and
it's or one of the tiny towns around Harlan. I don't know if he even respects people from Harlan. I think they have to come from like Westphalia or Portsmouth or like some of those
Panama.
Yeah. Then he'll respect you.
Right.
But if you grew up in the town of Harlan, Heath is gonna be skeptical of you until you win a state championship.
Yeah, you have to prove it 8 times over.
Yeah.
Yeah, which that's I think initially how it started. He's like, "You're just a big dumb idiot," and I'm like, "I'm a big dumb idiot who's better at golf than your ass." So, one of my favorite rounds, and I beat him, was when his girlfriend at the time, Alex Doyle, was in the. You remember her?
Oh, we'll have to bleep that out. Yeah, I remember.
Was in the cart with him, and I'm kicking the shit out of him. I'm up like 7 or 8 strokes, and we're going to the 9th, and I'm chirping, and I'm hammered. And Dubes is hammered. We're having a day. And he's being a red ass.
Yeah, well, the relationship's probably falling apart right in front of his eyes.
And she had the audacity, because I was getting after him pretty good. Just because you're winning at golf doesn't mean you're a better athlete.
Oh, shut up.
And I'm like, gosh, dang it, lady. It's bad enough that you're marginally attractive, you suck, and you don't drink, but now you want to run your mouth too.
Oh, man.
So I just verbally undressed her there and proceeded to par the 9th for an easy victory.
I think we're all happy Heath's with Liz now.
Oh, massive upgrade.
Yeah.
Massive upgrade. Downgrade for Liz. I don't know what her last boyfriend was like, but I'm sure he was nice. So,
speaking of marriage, I know on your list was how to stay married. Or what was on your list?
My list, what do I have here? Parenting and staying married. Not as easy as the Waltons made it look.
So I never watched the Waltons. I know what the Waltons is. Good night, John Boy. They had the thing saying good night at the, I think, end of every episode instead of the start. So where do you want to go with this?
And me and some other friends, we talk about all the time that we all do things in the process of staying married that maybe we wouldn't necessarily be like prone to do if we weren't. How's that sound?
Say that one more time.
We all do things for our wives in the process of staying married that if we weren't, maybe we would be a little bit more hard-headed on.
Sure. I mean, that's part of the selflessness that comes with marriage.
Yeah. I think it's in the rules.
Yeah. Like you're supposed to think of them before yourself.
Yeah. But that doesn't make it any easier.
No. Well, if selflessness was easy,
everybody
it
do
wouldn't
it.
be, yeah, it wouldn't be true selflessness, right? It would be, you know, it's like, well, it's easy for me to do this. It's
True.
kind of like the people that like, they think they're fasting if they're just doing the 1 meal a day thing. And it's like, well, you've just trained your body to eat 1 meal a day. You're not actually fasting,
right?
Because you're used to it now.
Yeah, fasting would be 0.
Yeah, faster. It's got to hurt a little bit, right? And same thing with like giving things up, giving up your own time for someone else. Like, yeah, you're supposed to feel that.
Yeah,
and that is part of love. Like that is why, you know,
like
it's a choice. Love is a choice that you do for someone else every day. That is what marriage is. You wake up every day and you say, I'm going to choose to love you today. And you don't just say it. It's not, you're like, I'm going to feel love for you. It's like, no, I'm going to show you that I love you by doing these things for you.
right.
And you have to do it every day, or, you know, relationships can get really hard because you've gone a lot of days in a row without choosing to love them.
Like, I went fishing on Lake Red Rock last Monday for the first time in 6 or 7 years. And I love going down there. That was one of my favorite, like, there's big fish in that lake, this, that, and the other thing. But hadn't gone, you know, because I was getting married and I was having a kid and then I was having another kid. And, yeah. But, like, that's the stuff that I'd say, like, I mean, because 10 years ago, like, I would deer hunt day after day after day, and now if I go 2 weekends a year, I feel pretty good about it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you do. It's a weird deal because when you're not married,
there's no rules.
When you're not, well, yeah, and when you're not married, you think that, like, I'm not going to Lake Red Rock because my wife won't let me. And that's not really the case.
That's not the case.
The case is really that, nope, I've chosen to be married. Being married is the best thing in my life.
Yeah.
And having kids, having this family, it gives me just infinite amounts of, not infinite, but like so much joy and so much love that because of that, I'm choosing things that are going to benefit my family and my wife over things that just benefit me.
Right. Yeah.
But it's almost impossible to see that when you're not married because it's impossible to have that perspective.
Right.
You just think, oh boy, you know, so-and-so's wife's dragging him down, just an old wet blanket, not letting him play flag football anymore. And it's like, well, I kind of just don't play flag football because I'd rather be with my wife and kids.
Right.
I love playing flag football. I wish I could still play flag football, but I'm going to do these other things instead, and I'm happy with that decision. Even though some days I still wish I played flag football.
Oh, for sure. I mean, what it comes down to is like being around and helping out and being able to do things around the house and just play with the kids to be able to, you know, that and taking that weight off of her and responsibility off of her and having her be happy with me and me being around and us having the total family interaction is far more important than going fishing, you know? But I will say this, every now and then, you got to do a little something for you.
You have to.
I mean, it doesn't have to be a lot, you know, like going fishing once here or there, golfing with your bros, stuff like that. You got to have a little bit of that because otherwise you'll lose your mind.
Even just like the workout, you know, like
for sure.
Getting outside of the house to work out by yourself. Yeah, like the Stein versus Meyer challenge. Like you need some of those things. You got to blow off steam. You got to do some things for you, and you know, it's that balance for sure.
Yeah.
Because isn't it wild? Tori and I were just talking about this today or yesterday. How, as a parent, the days just go so fast.
They're lightning.
And like the weeks just blend together, and you think about like, oh my gosh, I don't know.
The weekends fly.
Oh my God. All of it. It just goes so fast. And because oftentimes as a parent, when you have young kids, you're just trying to get to bedtime. You know, like you love your kids, you love all the time you spend with your kids, but it's exhausting too.
I take them to a park. I just burn 2 hours. Ba-boom, baby. Yeah.
But then all of a sudden it's like that movie Click. I hated that movie Click with Adam Sandler.
I never watched it. My wife loves that. Is it a good movie?
Well, I hated it. I've only seen it once because I was disappointed. I wanted a Sandler movie, you know, and I went when I was like 22 years old, so it wasn't for me. But now
slapstick.
But now I think about that movie because I'm at the point where Sandler was when he made it, and how the best times in your life are in the moment. you've got to realize that these are the best times of our lives.
Oh,
when
for
your
sure.
kids are young, when we're young and we're able to do this stuff, but you're still exhausted because you're working your butt off. You're trying to earn for your family. You're putting food on the table, trying to be dad of the year. And so you can make these really quick fixes, right? In his case, is a remote control to fast forward through these exhausting parts of your life. And those are the times that are actually the important times. It's the bath times, and it's the dinners, and it's when your kids are being annoying, and it's when, your kid needs his help pulling his pants down, like those kind of things, It's like you better hold on to those because they're going to be gone before you know it.
Yeah. I mean, and half of that stuff is the story to tell of like, when she was 2 years old and I was trying to get her pants down and she got her leg caught and then she peed all over the bathroom. It was like a geyser or something like that. That story is probably a little too real for some of us. But I read something the other day that said, I used to try to work my way through bedtime with the kids so fast because I was exhausted and I wanted my break. And they're like, start the process at 7:15, 7:30 and let it be slow. Let them dink around. And you, instead of like trying to hustle through it and hammer books at them or let them watch a show or a movie or whatever, just relax and chill out and let them ease their way into it, and they will. And you get to enjoy it a little bit at the same time. And the more I thought about that, like I started actually employing it of like not being this hammer, like, nope, we got to go to bed. We got to go to bed, just like let them weasel their way to it. And it made bedtime a lot more enjoyable at our house and took some of the angst out of it, I guess is the word I'll use. So
yeah, we're enjoying it.
It's fun. I mean, my girls are awesome right now. They're an absolute goof troop.
It's definitely not easy, but it's so rewarding.
Oh yeah.
And it's just an amazing, like being a parent is the coolest thing.
Yeah. Carrie always says, because she wasn't that sure that she wanted to have kids, and now that she's got them, oh my gosh, she's like super mom. I mean, she's all about them. She's always in their face. And she's going to be in their face. They don't want to know the half of it. When they're 35, she's going to be at the house. It's going to be ugly.
As somebody who grew up just in a big family, and I was always around big families, what was Carrie's perspective before you guys have kids of why she didn't want kids?
I'm not really sure on why she didn't want to. I don't think that she necessarily didn't want to, but she just was like skeptical of it. I think a little bit is that she worked really hard to get herself in like really, really good shape. And she's like, well, having a kid, it really wrecks your body and stuff like this. And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, well, what are you going to have happen to you? And I'm like, yeah, not much.
There's no one more selfless in the world than a mother.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And we talk about us not being able to play flag football or go fishing anymore. But let's be real clear here. The moms are the real MVPs.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Oh, you didn't get to play flag football? Yeah. Well, I couldn't see my toes for 6 months. All right. So shut up.
I'm amazed by every day. It's one thing to be a dad, and it's an awesome thing to be a dad. But man,
yeah,
the mom part of it is amazing.
It's a deal. Yeah, for sure. And to watch them, I mean, my favorite things is like, on a cold winter day, they're all snuggled in this big mom pile on the couch, watching a movie or something like that. And I'm over there building a fire and they're coaching me. Oh, more logs. I got it. Shut up,
Yeah, you're the only guy in your house. Tori's the only girl in our house.
I even have a female dog.
Oh, what are you doing?
I don't know. It's just me. Yeah. But I mean, I went hard. I finished the basement. I mean, and I have a bright future down there. I've got a fridge. It's got an ice machine, and everything's hooked up for a future bar. So, absolutely.
Well, Benny, this is fun.
This was fun. Tim, I want to ask you one thing, because I've asked this to multiple baseball guys. Okay? You're the manager of the Twins. Okay?
Sonny Gray on the mound.
10th inning. All right? You're the home team. You got through the top half of the 10th. You didn't give up a run. There's a runner on second with the new rules and nobody out. What are you doing?
Where am I at in the order?
Doesn't matter.
Well, it does matter.
6-hitter.
Okay, then
Are we swinging away or are we bunting him to third? What are we doing?
I mean, there's just so many factors, like who's on the mound, what do I have left on the bench that I can pinch hit.
It's only the 10th. I mean, you're probably still
only the 10th, but like I'm trying to end the game, right? This is my chance to win a game. I've got a runner in scoring position.
You're leading the division. You need every win.
But the thing is, if I ended up bunting him to third, then I've got my 7th hole hitter up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if I don't, depending on the matchup on the mound, like the odds of guys striking out now are higher than ever. So that's why you don't see a lot of the sacrifices. So a lot of it depends on who is coming up in the order for me, and that's going to make a difference. Do I have somebody who I know that can make contact and put a ball in the air? That's the question, right?
Or even a ball hard on the ground.
So if I've got, yeah, and that's the other thing of who's up. If I know I've got like a lefty up, an experienced lefty that if I let him swing away, he's going to hit a ground ball to the right side to get the runner to the third at the very least, then I'm not going to bunt him.
Sure.
Right? Because it's like, hey, he's either going to get a base hit or move the runner over, right? But you're going to need somebody like Jorge Polanco would be good at that. Same thing with like Jorge Polanco had a big sac fly yesterday before the floodgates opened up. He was down 0-2. He ended up getting the bat on the ball, hitting a sac fly. So depending on the matchup, or if like there's a lefty up there and I got Kyle Farmer or Garlick on the bench who hit lefties really well, then, it's a different story. So I think it's all based on the matchups there, which has drastically changed the game because it used to be you would just automatically bunt, right?
I would bunt him every time.
Yeah, I think
especially if I only need one.
But you're facing relievers from the other team who are striking out hitters at just a historical clip.
I know they're
and
throwing
the Twins
gas.
Are striking out at a historical clip. So
they're going to lead the league in strikeouts.
I know. So it's all about that matchup. So I don't know. I don't have a concrete answer because everything is based on the matchup. So the baseball is such a matchup game now more than ever because of all these stats.
I know.
And because all the pitchers and hitters are so polarized. Like you very rarely get a guy like, Arise or
like a David Eckstein or somebody like that that like makes contact.
I'm trying to think who's the guy. Maybe it is Arise that I'm thinking of. That's like, he just doesn't strike out.
He's bad on the ball constantly. Yeah.
And you just don't see guys like that at all. Like,
I just wish that someone would make some small adjustments to like, hey, when we do get in this situation, we can do this and we can manufacture this run the old way. Just every now and then. It doesn't have to be all the time.
I hear what you're saying, and I empathize with it. It just
aggravates me to no
end. With the way that high-end, top-end relievers are throwing, as a hitter, you've got to give up something.
Sure.
You can't cover the whole plate. You can't cover every pitch because you got to be looking for one pitch or something, and you've kind of got to be focused on that. Otherwise, it's like, whoa, look fastball and react. It's like, well, if he's throwing 102 with the slider,
at 90,
I can't really react to the 94-mile-an-hour slider. Right. Nobody can do that.
I mean, the pitchers are freaks these days, that's for sure. But I don't know. I would like to think there's got to be still a place out there for the guy who can just consistently make contact, put the ball in play.
I agree with you.
The part that baffles me is like how often that guy is on second and he never moves, and you only needed one run.
So last year, the Twins led the majors in most extra innings games played.
Yeah, and they lost.
They lost almost everyone. And Bracco never bunted.
Yeah, I know, and this is why
this year they lead the major leagues in extra innings played again, and they've actually been pretty good in the extra innings. And once again, Rocco has never bunted.
Not bunting.
And I don't know.
We're always in extra innings because the bullpen can't get anybody out. Deadbeats.
Well, it's because the offense has been bad for most of the year, but our pitching, like Sonny Gray, has been so good that it's keeping us in the game.
Sonny Gray. Fair enough. This was awesome.
This was fun. Come back again.
Heath sucks.
It's Moonlight Graham. Yeah. It's a pretty good program. Broadcasting to the heartland. Sports stories for the everyman. It's Moonlight Graham. Yeah. Please follow us on Instagram. us on Twitter too. You download every pod we do. It's Moonlight Graham.